Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and I haven't shown you guys some of my recent pickups for CGC graded comic books. I've got some Spider-Man, Batman, Captain America, Wolverine, some Silver Age books, Bronze Age. I mean, I've got a lot of really interesting books that I think you would like to take a look at. And we're going to start off with some smaller books and then get progressively more ridiculous. Please excuse the reflections. It's very tough to film comic book videos in my collection room, but the first one is a really easy one to find, but it's a great cover that shows Tombstone guns akimbo over top of Miles Morales. I think it's also the first cameo appearance of Starling, who was kind of like a love interest for Miles Morales in some of the early books, but that's not the reason I got it. It's just a great cover. Very inexpensive. You can find this for probably 60 to 70 bucks. I don't know why I bought it. I just wanted it. I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to books. They don't all have to be super rare. And I love Miles Morales. Tombstone was in the latest Spider-Verse movie. Both of them, I think. And that's just one I wanted. This is one I picked up from Instagram. And this is Ultimate Comics Spider-Man number 5. This is a very early Miles appearance. Ultimate Comics Spider-Man number 1 is his second overall appearance after Ultimate Fallout 4. But this is the origin of his costume. That's what this book is about. And, I like to get Ultimate Comics Spider-Man number 1, which is the second appearance of Miles, the beginning of his origin story. But I saw this one for a fair price, and I thought I'd go ahead and grab it because it is kind of the origin of his costume. I don't know if it'll ever be kind of like Secret Wars 8 level, but that is just a book that, it's a little bit lower print run maybe than some of these other modern books, and tough to get in a 9.8 because of the black edges. So I thought it was great art and everything. So that is the next one. We're going to pause it here, and I'm going to show you some Batman books next. Here are two Harley Quinn related books that I've had in my collection for a little bit. First, obviously, is Batman Adventures number 12. Kind of her first overall appearance in comic books. Pretty key issue. Awesome book. And then I also have Batman Adventures Mad Love. This is a one-shot. This is the origin of Harley Quinn out of DC continuity. So this is her first appearance overall, first appearance out of continuity, origin of Harley Quinn out of continuity. And I finally picked up the one that I told you guys was on my want list for this year, and that's Batman Harley Quinn, the one-shot. This is the origin and first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity and DC Universe continuity. So pretty creepy Alex Ross cover. That's always been kind of a book I've wanted to get. Tough to find this one without kind of scuffs. There's a little bit of scuffing on the back there, but nothing terrible. But this cover is just an awesome, awesome cover. This was another Instagram find. Elite Comics on Instagram. So this was freshly graded. Origin and first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC Universe continuity. So nice to have kind of the Holy Trinity as it relates to Harley Quinn. Obviously, Batman Adventures being the biggest book, but I think I've got all three main books now. I would like to get Mad Love, the second print for this book. It's a different cover. It's a prestige format. Really great cover as well, and I think that would kind of be a nice one to get. It's kind of low priority, but I wouldn't mind grabbing it at some point. But nice to have this one. This was definitely a big goal book for me if I could find a clean one. And while it's not as clean as I'd like in terms of the case, it really presents nicely from the front. The back had some bad scuffs to it, but I've kind of given up trying to get the most perfect case for this book because every little possible scuff shows up on it. Okay, next up I've got some Detective Comics and also some earlier Batman books I wanted to show you. I've got some Batman and Detective Comics books next that I thought were worth showing. I hadn't shown these on the channel yet, but this is a newsstand edition from 1983 for Batman 366, an absolutely awesome Joker versus Batman cover. And let's take a closer look at that. Just awesome, awesome cover there. And this one is the first appearance of Jason Todd in the Robin costume. And I've got a couple of one other Jason Todd related book, but this is the first appearance of him in the Robin costume. So he's Robin number 2 after Tim Drake. And this one is just one of those books that's really tough to find in a newsstand. They don't pop up very much. And I had a search set up on eBay for 366 direct or newsstand, and I've bid on a couple of them over the years, but had just never been able to win one. And this newsstand came up at exactly the fair price, fair market value for it, so I went ahead and grabbed it because that's one I've just been looking for forever. And then as it relates to Jason Todd, I'm going to move this one over a little bit. This is going to be a little bit rapid fire with some of these books, but this is another Instagram purchase, Batman 357. This is the first full appearance of Killer Croc, one of my favorite villains, and Jason Todd. It's a really key issue. It doesn't show either one of them on the cover, unfortunately, but it's still a really great cover where an important book from 1983. And so this one came out about 7 months, or 8 months, I guess, actually, 7 or 8 months before 366. And so you got, not only do you have the first overall appearance of Jason Todd, but also Killer Croc's first appearance. So again, one of my favorite villains. And I think I've got another Killer Croc related book in some location on this list. Yeah, I'm going to show you the last Killer Croc related book in a second. But this is Batman 497 in a newsstand. This is where Bane breaks Batman's back. And very easy to find in a direct edition. The direct edition has like a big black bar going over about a third of the cover. And it's the same cover, you just can't see the whole thing. So the newsstand's the way to go, though. The newsstand is, a little bit fewer on the census. Neither one of them are particularly hard to find, but you are going to pay about double for the newsstand versus the direct edition. But obviously this was captured in The Dark Knight Rises, I believe is the name of the movie, where Bane breaks Batman's back. So this is kind of a cool book that is Bane related. I still don't have Vengeance of Bane, which is his first appearance in comics. That's one I picked up for my brother, but have not grabbed for myself yet. Here's some interesting books as it relates to the label. So here's the other Killer Croc book I wanted to show you. This is Detective Comics 525. This is from April 1983. So again, another very early Killer Croc appearance. Killer Croc's first appearance was a month before that in March of 1983 for Batman 357. But as it relates to Detective Comics, they did kind of show him on the cover here. So in combat with Croc, the most cold-blooded killer of all. So pretty awesome cover there. Killer Croc. It kind of harkens back to the Arkham Asylum video games, if you even played that. Killer Croc was kind of underneath the sewers and the water in those games. So really, really cool book. Now, I wanted to talk briefly about this label here. This is from the Fantast collection. And so the whole story behind this is that this attorney in the Midwest had an incredible collection of comics. None of them were graded, but it kind of ruined his life. Comics basically took over his life. And his wife left him because comics were everywhere. He didn't have a good relationship with his son, apparently. Wouldn't let his son even look at the collection. It was really crazy. So the guy died. The guy passed away, and his son has since been able to kind of access this vault of comics that he had, and it's like a multi-million-dollar collection. He's got every key book ranging from, early Batman books and Amazing Fantasy 15 all the way through, some of these more common books. So he had them all graded, and CGC decided to give this a custom label, and it's Selling Superman the Film. And so this guy has created like a documentary about these books and his life, and all the problems. It touches on the problems, I think, that he had with his dad, and the fact that his dad basically just let comics ruin his life. So it's a testament to not letting collecting go crazy, but this is a Killer Croc appearance, Green Arrow backup story. But it's a really cool kind of custom label there. And I guess he had like an early Superman book. I don't know if it was Action Comics 1 or what, but anyway, I didn't buy it because of the label. It was just fairly priced, but I just, it's not often you get one of these kind of, I equate this Fantast label to like the Morphe auction label that Collector Archive Services did for that February of last year auction for Morphe. If you bought one of the items at auction at Morphe's and then submitted it to CAS, they would then label it as part of the Morphe auction find. So that is why, that's kind of what I equate that Fantast label to. It's not a pedigree. It's more just like a, letting you know that it came from that collection. The other one I picked up from the Fantast collection is this one. This is Detective Comics 375 from May of 1968. This is in a 9.4 with white pages. This is one I kind of had on my secondary watch list if it ever came up in a high enough grade. There's very few of these in this high of a grade. I think there's only a handful that are graded higher than this book, and I don't think there's any 9.8s at all for this book. But this is a great cover that I wanted to kind of show you in more detail. This is the first appearance of the TV Batman show version of the Batmobile. So if you see the Batmobile there, it looks very familiar to the old Adam West 1960s TV show, and this is the first appearance of that Batmobile in comics. And the other interesting thing is that it kind of reminds me a little bit of the JFK assassination. You've got a guy with a rifle and a scope taking aim at Batman as Batman is in a parade in a very similar kind of seating position to what JFK was. It was an open air car. And, this was in 1968. I don't remember exactly what year JFK's assassination was, but I think it was a year or two before that. So kind of an interesting homage. And, I don't know if this would fly nowadays to have something so close to the actual event in comics. I mean, I think it was only a year or two before this, maybe a little bit earlier. But, it would be kind of like 9/11 being captured in a comic book cover a year or two after 9/11. It just wouldn't fly, right? So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of an interesting, eerie kind of homage to the JFK assassination that maybe it was not intended that way, but that's the way it came off to me looking at it. But anyway, it's kind of a secondary key. I just thought it was worth showing that one because you don't see this one in such a high grade. I forgot what the census count was, but there's less than a handful that are graded higher than this one in a 9.4 with white pages. The last Batman book I wanted to show you before we dig into some other heroes, this is a big one. This one is a really, really nice book that I grabbed, and it's related to my Neil Adams covers. These are all big key Neil Adams books that you guys should all probably know by now, but this is Batman 227 in a 9.2 with off-white to white pages, a pretty amazing book that I picked up on the last Hakes auction and I've already shown you on the channel. And then these are the other two I've already shown you guys, but this is Batman 251 in a 9.2 white pages. Kind of the first time that the Joker is a homicidal, sociopathic maniac, very similar to Chris W. over at Rogue 5 Toys. And then Batman 232, this is the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul in comics. Just an incredible cover. And so these are the three big ones that I had in my collection. I also do have a Batman 227 in a 7.0 with white pages, but I didn't want to overload you guys with too much stuff here. But this is the latest pickup, and it's a big one. This is a really awesome book that I never thought I'd be able to find in such a high grade. But this is Detective Comics 405 from November of 1970 in a 9.6 with white pages. This is the first appearance of the League of Assassins. Just an awesome book, 9.6. And I think, if our memory serves, there's only 8 copies in a 9.8 grade for this book. So I've got a 9.6. Very, very high grade book. This appeared randomly on eBay in an auction with a starting bid price that was well below fair market value. And I was worried that it was a fake listing. It was like, some estate sale services company. So what I did was I looked up the certification number. And you can look up the certification number, and you see how it ends in 86006. Well, if you type in 86005, 004, that kind of thing, that's all from the same order. So you can verify what else was sent in with this order. And some of those books that were in that order were also at auction. They were also not the generic CGC scans. They were, you know, from the guy's living room or whatever. So I knew it was a legit sale, and because they were all from the same order, and that's what gave me comfort to go ahead and bid on it. And it ended up going for well below, way below the last sale in a 9.6, which had been a while ago, admittedly, back when the market was a little stronger. But I mean, it went for like $1,000 less than what the last sale was before that. So I was really shocked I got it for as low as I did. And I was scraping I had to put it on PayPal credit, but I was scraping the absolute max that I could go, and I barely won it. I won it by like $20 or something like that. So this is just an awesome book. And, you know, I equate this to the Dark or Batman Begins, the beginning of the Christopher Nolan trilogy, where Ra's al Ghul, played by Liam Neeson, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he had the League of Shadows. So I think that they, instead of calling it the League of Assassins, which would have sounded maybe a little corny, they called it the League of Shadows. And so this is just an awesome, awesome book. Just a great cover. I want to give a close-up of this book. There's the League of Assassins. They're introducing the League of Assassins Target Batman. I mean, how awesome is this cover? It's just an amazing book to get it in such a high grade. 9.6, freshly graded. He had some other big books, too. He had, like, Detective Comics 359 in a 9.0, which is the first appearance of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. But, I mean, that was like a $6,000 book. I can't afford that. But this was the cleanest copy and the highest graded copy I've seen for sale for this book in a very long time. And it just goes perfectly with my other Neal Adams books. So the next target for me is Detective Comics number 411, which is the first appearance of Talia al Ghul, which is Ra's al Ghul's daughter. And obviously she was portrayed in the last Batman film as well, the Dark Knight Rises with Bane, the last of the trilogy from Christopher Nolan. So I'd love to get that one, and then I'd kind of consider the big key issues for Neal Adams' Batman and Detective Comics run. Those are all the big ones that I had on my target list, and I don't know if I'll get it this year because it just doesn't come up that often in high enough grade. Most of them are kind of like 6s and 7s, but I'd like to pick it up in like a 9.0 or something like that. So anyway, just an awesome book that, you never know what you're going to find on eBay. I mean, this is kind of one of those random finds that this is the type of book that would usually appear on Heritage and would have sold for insane money. I mean, it's just, I got it for way below what this thing would have gone for on Heritage, in my opinion. But awesome, awesome book. Now let's get away from Batman, and I'm going to show you a few amazing books I've picked up for Wolverine. So you guys know that I love this book. This is Incredible Hulk number 340, which is the second fight between Wolverine and the Hulk in comic books. Obviously, the first being Hulk number 181, the first appearance of Wolverine. Very expensive book. Hope to get it one day, but that is definitely going to take some saving or selling a bunch of stuff to do it. So I've had this 9.8 White Pages direct edition for a while. I got it last year, I believe. And that is certainly one of my prides. And I've always said if I find another copy that's in good shape and fairly priced, that I would grab it. And this one went for really inexpensively. So I did pick up a second direct edition. Why I have two, I don't know. But the color strike on it was so nice that I decided to go ahead and grab a second copy of direct edition. But the big one is this one. This is one that I didn't think I'd actually get, but it came up. This is Hulk 340 in a newsstand edition. So very happy to pick up the newsstand edition. You can see the barcode there versus the Spider-Man logo there. So this is kind of my, I think I feel pretty good now that I've scratched that itch as it relates to Hulk 340. Finally picking up this book in a newsstand. Very tough to get and much more expensive than the direct edition. This is one where that usual rule of thumb of 2 to 2.5 times of whatever the direct edition, that's what you're going to pay for the newsstand. That does not apply to this book. This is more like 4 times what you're going to pay for this book. It's very, very pricey. I probably overpaid for it, to be honest with you. And it did arrive with some scuffs, which I was really, disappointed by. It had a lot of scuffs on it. So I rolled the dice and I did send it back in to CGC for reholdering, which you never know if you're actually going to keep the same grade. but it did keep the same grade, thank God. And it was probably a dumb decision to send it back in, but I couldn't, my OCD couldn't deal with these bad scuffs that were in the blue area, and I just had to try and reholder it. So probably wouldn't make that decision a second time to think about it. It's just too risky to send it back in, especially nowadays with all the reholdering scandal going on and all that kind of thing that happened at CGC. But it did come back, and it looks beautiful now. And so now I've got the newsstand edition, which was a big goal list book for me this year, and then 2 direct editions for Hulk 340. So I'm going to rapid fire through these, and we'll keep the 2 directs up just for viewing. But here's another one I picked up. I picked this one up surprisingly on Shortboxed. I had never bought on Shortbox before, but X-Men number 141 in a newsstand edition. This is the first appearance of Rachel Phoenix number 2, Avalanche, Destiny, Pyro, and Alternate Future X-Men. So this is kind of the Days of Future Past storyline. Pretty iconic cover. And, you know, this is one that I picked up for what I thought was fair market value, or maybe even a little bit below that. But it was on Shortboxed, which is like an app for your phone. And I've always found the inventory to be pretty crappy on Shortboxed. But this one popped up, and I was like, whoa, I need to make an offer on this. So I made an offer that was about $100 lower than what he was asking. He came back at $50 lower, and I said, you know what? When am I going to find another newsstand edition for this book for that price? And a couple of them have sold since then for like $700 higher than what I paid. And part of it's probably because of the Deadpool and Wolverine trailers that have dropped, which that movie's going to be incredible. I can't wait for it. But that is really driving Wolverine keys right now. So I think I hit the window pretty well before all the Deadpool stuff. I'm sure it's going to come back down in price after Deadpool and Wolverine come and go in the theaters, but it's just an awesome book. It's kind of an alternate, you know, the Days of Future Past storyline that was played out in a movie that I did not actually see yet, but I have it on my watch list for Disney Plus or you know, Netflix or whatever. But pretty awesome to get that one in a newsstand edition. So I'd like to pick up X-Men 142 in a newsstand if I can find one. Here's another big one. This is the first solo cover and story, I believe, for Wolverine in X-Men books. So X-Men number 133 in a direct edition, and this is like the Hellfire Club, and just I think it's the first solo cover for Wolverine in comics, period, if memory serves. I don't know if it's a first solo story or just the cover, but pretty awesome key book. And I picked this one up a few months ago, just hadn't had a chance to show it on the channel. Very, very nice looking book there. So another X-Men key. Here's the big one though. This is one I picked up 3 or 4 months ago and I have not shown, but this is giant size X-Men in a 9.4 with white pages. And this is a pretty incredible key issue. This is basically one of the biggest Bronze Age books that you can grab. And it's an incredible, incredible book that I spent a lot of money on, obviously. This is a 9.4 with white pages for giant size X-Men number 1. So it's the first appearance of the new X-Men, first appearance of Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Thunderbird, and the second full appearance ever for Wolverine in comics. So it's just easily, I mean, this is easily the biggest book in my collection. It's not one that I'd ever thought I'd have, but I saved up quite a bit for it, and I probably started saving for this book last year, and I couldn't decide whether to go for this one or a lower grade Hulk 181, and I think I made the right choice, in my opinion. I think I made the right choice. I got this one in a 9.4, which there's no way I could get Hulk 181 in a 9.4 on top of this, so I had to pick one or the other. And I went with this one because it was a little less expensive, and it just worked out perfectly in the auction. I was shocked when I got it for the price I did. I got it for way, way below, even back then, what this book was going for. Since then, this book has probably gone up about $2,000 in value. And I'm sure it'll come back down again, just like every other kind of fairly common big key. But, you know, X-Men are hot right now because of that new X-Men 97 series on Disney Plus, which is excellent. And obviously, given that this is Wolverine's second overall appearance in comics, this book is really heated up because the Deadpool movie looks absolutely fantastic. But Just an incredible book. This is easily the most expensive item in my entire collection of anything. You know, Star Wars toys, comics, everything else. This is easily the most expensive item in my collection, and I just hadn't had a chance to show it on the channel yet. So, big book. And we're going to finish things off here. I've got one other Captain America book that I hadn't shown you that's also a Wolverine book. And I'm going to pull that out now since this is kind of Wolverine related. But after this, we're going to show you some big Spider-Man books. But this is one that is probably one of my favorite books growing up. I had this growing up. I tried to draw this book growing up. It's another Mike Zeck cover. Obviously, you guys know that I love Mike Zeck. But this is Captain America Annual number 8. It's the first appearance of Overrider and Tess 1, which I've already forgotten who they are. But this is just an awesome Wolverine versus Captain America fight. And I love the flame, kind of the flaming sparks on the claws and everything. It's just everything about this cover is perfect, in my opinion. And easily one of my favorite Mike Zeck covers. And I'd always told myself if one of these comes up, either at auction or for a fairly listed price, that I would grab it. This one was freshly graded, perfectly centered. It had everything going for it, and really happy I grabbed it because it's just one of those awesome mid-1980s books. This came out in 1986, so that was right during the heart of when I was collecting and reading comic books. And this was one of my favorites, one of my brother's favorites. We both loved this cover, and pretty awesome to have this one in the collection. So that is it for my Wolverine books. Now we're going to dig into some huge Spider-Man books from the Silver Age. So I did pick up a few awesome Silver Age keys for the Amazing Spider-Man run that I'm not sure I ever thought I'd ever have in my collection. But these I picked up. Most of these I picked up a few months ago. One of them is a recent pickup, but these are the two I already had in my collection. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 41, the first appearance of Rhino, in a 7.5 with white pages. And then this is one I picked up on Instagram. This is ASM 50, the first appearance of Kingpin in comics, in an 8.0 with off-white to white pages. Here's the first one I wanted to show you. I just picked this one up on Comic Connect, which is my first time buying from them. And while I appreciated the fact that they do not charge sales tax, that was a big unexpected surprise. I assumed that they were going to charge me sales tax. They did not. But they just take forever to ship. Oh my God. It took like 2.5 months before I finally got this book. But it finally did arrive the other day, and that's why I decided to go ahead and put this video together. This was the last one I was waiting on. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 11 in a 6.0 with white pages. This is the second overall appearance of Dr. Octopus in comics. And it's just one of those awesome covers that, while I would not mind picking up a second copy of this in a higher grade, it's just hard to find one of these with white pages. And I thought it presented a lot better than a 6.0. Man, look at that cover. That is awesome. Obviously, his first appearance is ASM number 3. That's the first appearance of Dr. Octopus, one I wouldn't mind getting. But you can see their second appearance of Doc Ock. And the other thing is, this is kind of like the Fantastic collection where they did have some notes here. This is from the collection of John Burke, who was kind of a ASM historian or archivist. He just knew everything about Amazing Spider-Man early books, and he contributed a lot on the CGC forums for Amazing Spider-Man. He was kind of well known within the long-time comic book community, way long time before I even started thinking about buying comics. So, but anyway, he passed away, and a lot of his books were then graded, and so that they were just noting that this was from his original collection. But this is featuring the long-awaited return of Dr. Octopus. So pretty awesome book, and it is a 6.0 with white pages. Just it's certainly an expensive book, but in higher grade. I mean, we talked about on Comic Link I think it was a 9.2 or a 9.4 that sold for $18,000. So it's that's a little outside my price budget. So this is one that I just couldn't resist with how beautiful it is. So Comic Connect just takes forever to ship. That was the only big negative, but they got it to me, and certainly looks great. As it relates to Kingpin, I've got this one. This is the next one that I was really happy to grab. I'll tell you the story how I picked it up in a second, but this is Amazing Spider-Man number 51. This is the first cover appearance of Kingpin in comics and the second overall appearance of Kingpin. Obviously, his first appearance is in number 50. But this is just a great cover. In the Clutches of Kingpin. This is from August of 1967. This is a 9.2 with white pages. And I made the mistake of going on Instagram, and there was a live show for Elite Comics 11, which is a pretty well-known comic book dealer. But they had a guest on there named Comics Uprising, and he had this one sitting on the shelf when I tuned in. It had been sitting there for sale in this live show, and I just happened to make the mistake of seeing it. And so I started asking some questions about it, and they were kind of ignoring my questions. And I said, hey, I'd just like to know what, it's hard to see because the screen was so blurry. What grade is that, and what's the page quality? And so they finally got around to me and said it's a 9.2 with white pages. And the seller, James from Comics Uprising, he's got like 70,000 followers. He knows everything there is to know about comics, and he's a very high-end comic book dealer. Anyway, he had this one listed for about fair market value, and then he said, hey, if one of y'all wants it now, I'll drop it off. I'll drop $300 off of it. So he took about 20% off the list price, and I immediately claimed it. And I'm glad I did, because somebody else tried to claim it literally a millisecond after I did. But luckily, my claim showed up first in the comments in this live show, and it arrived safe and sound. I couldn't be any happier with it. I think it's Comics_Uprising. He's got like 70,000 followers. His name is James, but he gave me an amazing deal on this. No pun intended, but it was just an incredible deal, well below fair market value for white page 9.2 for ASM number 51. So awesome to get the other kind of big key issue for Kingpin. I've got his first appearance, and then I've got his second overall appearance and first cover appearance. Just an awesome, awesome book. So thank you again, James, for that. Finally, to round this video out, I've got the biggest ASM key, and I'm just going to go ahead and slap this down. This is ASM number 14 in a 7.5 with off-white to white pages. This is the first appearance of the Green Goblin in comics. And this is also the first meeting of the Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man in comics. I mean, you want to talk about a massive, massive book. This is it. And I picked this one up about 3 months ago on Comic Link. And I'm glad I did it at the time, because this book has just done nothing but shot up in price. So I don't know why. I don't know what, there's no kind of Green Goblin news really, but this is just an amazing, amazing book. And I can't believe that I was able to get it for the price I did. But very iconic. And again, the first meeting of the Hulk, and you can see it's got that old school Hulk look from the 60s, guest starring none other than the rampaging powerhouse, the Incredible Hulk. And then we've got the Enforcers, who make another appearance in an earlier issue, but there's the Green Goblin with Spider-Man on the walls there. Wow, just wait till you see the Green Goblin. Does the Green Goblin look cute to you? Does he make you want to smile? Well, forget it. He's the most sinister, most dangerous foe Spidey's ever fought, and he certainly had his moments in the movies. First appearance of Green Goblin, Norman Osborn. Enforcers appearance, those are the Enforcers down there. And then the first meeting of the Hulk and Spider-Man in comics. So, an incredible book from July of 1964. Easily the biggest Silver Age Spider-Man book in my collection. But, these books were piling up, and I just hadn't had a chance to show them on the channel yet, but I thought you guys would like to take a look at some of these big books. That's all I really had for this video. I hope you enjoyed this look at some recent comic book pickups. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.